Hello.
Hey, you made it. What's up, buddy?
Yo, not much. Just trying to configure OBS for the first time on this computer.
Story of my fucking life, man. Story of my fucking life. Well, you'll be happy to know that we weren't hard up last week because it turns out that you and I have been working on the same thing the whole time. It's
Oh, then.
yeah, I that paper caught my eye too, so I've got I approached it by making a skills package for Claude to like replicate it. And then I think we peeked at your repo last week a little bit. But I'm excited
Hmm.
to get the full tour of the real heavy duty Python version. Should be cool.
Huh. Yeah, there's like a whole top. It's like a whole. Actually, can you give me the recap for what you did? Maybe I
Yeah,
can
sure.
just start there.
Yeah, I can show you my yeah, I have a present. Mine is not entirely let me make sure I'm recording and stuff here. If that is gonna work.
Zoom seems to be recording.
Yeah, Zoom is. I'd like to get the backup copy.
Hmm.
Um the the sorry, give me one moment.
Hmm.
Um, the so the
If
um
it's too complicated, that's fine.
oh
Up to
no,
you.
sorry, I just got the DMs. Um, yeah. So my approach is I have a couple of different I have a couple of different uh, uh, repos that I'm sort of building skills out of. Um, that is, let's see. Let me see if I can find it here.
Do you remember Dinosaur? I presented it here at one point.
Dinosaur. Mm, I have a
Dinosaur.
vague recollection, I think.
That was like 2 years ago.
Hmm. Yeah,
It was
it's
a
not
while
ringing a
back.
bell.
So what they were discussing is um okay, yeah, you're sharing a screen. Okay, so run us through this
Oh wait, is that the
in
okay?
a
Is that the
concise version.
okay? Is that the right screen? You guys see a notebook LM there?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Um, yeah, so more or less I took like I did the influence flower on that paper and then gave it all the stuff that I use in my Claude and then I basically like sort of extracted from these papers, okay, like give me some skills I can throw into Claude skills basically. This is the long and short of it.
Mm. Okay, and Ace was one of those skills.
Yes, yep.
Okay. Did you like do much more beyond that for Ace or is that?
Um I haven't finished that skill config necessarily. I have
Mhm.
like a repo I'm working out of. Um but the uh 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 but
Yeah, it's okay.
yeah.
Did you by any chance like end up playing with the what is it called, Marketplace?
Marketplace. No, I didn't.
Because I'd be down to like contribute this repo to a marketplace, like of automatic, like autonomously improving agent systems. That'll be, I think that would be interesting.
Or do you mean like the skills the skills registry plugin registry thing that Anthropic does? That's
Yes,
what you're talking about?
yeah,
Yeah.
that's they call it plugins or marketplace. I don't know, whatever it is. We're thinking of the same thing.
Some weird thing going on, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So
Yeah, maybe we chat about it sometime. Yeah.
yeah. Okay. So I just want to okay. So let's begin with the actual paper, which was which was basically released not so long ago. What this paper is covering, and I basically have a graph here that I think I'll get into once I wrapped up, like doing a quick take on the paper. So what the paper was covering was basically having an external memory to your agents. And basically having an external memory that whenever your agent runs, whenever your agent rollout completes, it is then able to pull. So this is basically the diagram that basically encompasses everything, what this paper is. So what they do is you have this agent, you add two things to this agent. You add a system for embedding these bullet points onto the end of your prompt, and then you have a system for like learning these bullet points, and that's basically the reflector and curator. So the generator appends these bullets to your prompt. The reflector and curator, those create the bullets, and that's the gist of this paper in 1 minute. And to go deeper, like what actually happens at these like specific nodes is at this LLM, basically during this generator, this is what happens in the prompt. Let's see if I can find it. And note that one of the things that was kind of frustrating about this paper was that their prompts are quite variable between the two things that they were exploring. So they were between the two like environments that they were testing this research against. One of them was App World, the other one was Finer. I won't go into them because I don't really know exactly what they do. I just know that the prompts do differ significantly between the two environments. And so the prompt was not very generalizable, but I'm just going to run with these prompts just to like illustrate what they're doing. So here's the generator prompt. The generator prompt has this customized, hold on, key instructions. Let me see. Examples, key instructions, be sure to follow. So I'm trying to figure out, maybe I like misinterpreted this, but if I look into how I interpreted it like a week or two ago when I built this, I basically have let's see, where do I have this? Server, probably prompts right here. So I basically try to generalize these prompts, and I'm just curious to see where my thing differs. Okay, so there is like a cheat sheet somewhere. Cheat sheet. Generator. Okay, so here's the interesting. Where does that cheat sheet? Oh, playbook right here. Okay, so this is the most important part of this whole prompt. So the reason I'm kind of struggling here is I'm trying to see like what was specific to these environments that they were testing against and what isn't. And I'm kind of realizing now that I might have missed some information here. So these key instructions, you can use this supervisor. Hold on. I think I'm realizing another thing. All right,
I
so
got the notebook on the side. If you need me to extract something from the papers, let me know.
no, this is like super precise. I'm basically
Okay.
trying to see what is the difference between my interpretation of the paper and what the paper actually has. So I'm noticing now that it's actually not like fully feature parity with what they're describing in their paper. These key instructions is something that I left out. I cannot give you a reason why I left it out other than that just I forgot. But what I'm trying to get at here is trying to showcase that most of this is actually like a specific prompt for the environment that they're operating against. So you'll see like as I'm basically cycling through these are like, hold on, generator prompt for app world. Oh, okay, so one of them, we're looking at multiple different generator prompts actually. One of them is ACE. Another one is like ICL baseline. Okay, this is not. So I'm actually okay. I'm learning things as well as I'm going through this. But so we
Beautiful.
have the ACE generator prompt. This is what we're focusing on. This is the ACE generator prompt. Hopefully there is a mention of ACE somewhere in this prompt so I can more easily. Oh, that's awful. Oh, okay. Let's try this. ACE generator. Okay, there we go. Now we have two. Okay, finally. So we have the two ACE generator prompts. And you'll notice that the two prompts for the two different environments that they're testing against are very different. You have the playbook that is passed into it. And this is actually passing into it a whole lot of extra information that I don't really know why it's doing that. This is the frustrating thing about their paper. So these are supposed to be like two equal prompts with the addition of the actual playbook. And you'll notice here that they have the playbook begins, playbook end. This is basically the meat of their paper. Everything else is just like, at least here, it's kind of like an instruction of what this playbook is, which is basically just to supplement the original prompt. The rest is like a specific prompt for app world. And then you go here and where's the playbook? Oh, the playbook is supposed to go here. So it's not even like the same delimiters that they're using. So this is very frustrating. And I tried to just like consolidate this into like one generalized prompt, and this is what this is. And basically the idea here, yeah, it's basically just a generalized version of what they're doing here. There is another repository that was kind of like served as a minor inspiration to what they were doing, and they also like they on their end, they basically completely threw away the ACE prompts altogether, probably because of this reason. Like these prompts are not consistent. Okay, so
You know which
yeah,
repo that was? Was that the dynamic cheat sheet repo?
no, it was an ACE repo, ACE GitHub. It's probably like a top ranking repo. Let's see. Let's see, Agentic Context Engineering GitHub. That was like the first thing. I didn't try too hard. It's this one. So if you look at their prompts, okay, I'm not gonna go into it, but you can look at their prompts yourself. They are completely different. They basically just got the gist of what ACE was, and they created like a SDK for it. And so going back to like what ACE is, you have this ACE generator prompt. It's supposed to be more generalizable. You have this ACE generator prompt, and then you have a reflector prompt. What this reflector prompt does is, let's go to app world. I'm more familiar with this one. So the ACE reflector prompt, what it's supposed to do, it's supposed to look at several different like parameters about your agent. So you have the ground truth, and note that many of these parameters are optional because in their paper they describe that supposedly this this system works both offline and online. What this means is like if you already have a data set that is like labeled, then you can leverage that to get better performance. If you want to do online, basically just run it on your deployed agent. You can do that too, and it's still going to generate bullets that are useful. So you have this. So these are the parameters that you can pass in according to what the research showed. The ground truth code, this is specifically for offline. If you've already generated ground truth on your samples, then you have the unit test results. The way I'm thinking of this is like evaluations or feedback from the environment. Then you have the playbook. This was the original playbook that you used. Like this is the playbook that you used during the rollout. So if you started your agent with 3 bullet points, these are the 3 bullet points that are going to show up here. And then trajectory somewhere here. Yeah, full agent trajectory, basically your logs of the agent going through its workflow. That's the reflector, and the output of the reflector is basically just, and this is a lot easier to see. If I just show you what the model looks like on my repo. I wonder if I can find it easily here on the repo. We have app server, prompts, temporal, database. Probably not here. Oh, schemas, I think. Okay, reflector. Reflector. Okay, reflector input, reflector output. Reflection, reflection, where's reflection? Wait, what? Okay, this is what the output looks like for reflector. Note that this is just kind of like structuring a report from all the information we passed into into the reflector input in the first place. You have basically reasoning, its thought process, you have error identification, you have the root cause analysis, correct what it thinks it should be the correct approach, and the key insight and bullet tags. What these bullet tags are something they discuss in the paper, which is being able to, I think this might be easier to see in an example. Yeah, so I think it's here. Yeah, they basically provide examples for each of these. That's where I like that's how I determined what the outputs are supposed to be. So the reflector prompt is, where are the tags? Okay, here are the examples. Yeah, so you have here's the response. Okay, this is right in front of us. Okay, so the reasoning, error identification, root cause analysis, correct approach, key insights. This is basically what should become the bullet point. And then there is one additional thing, which is tags. And I did not pull this out of my ass. This was mentioned somewhere here, right here. So this is the reflector refiner. This has even the output is different between the two environments. So this is the frustrating thing about the paper. So the bullet tags are basically representing the 3 bullet points that you used to pass into the original environment. Those 3 bullet points, the reflector can decide to tag these bullet points as helpful or harmful or neutral. And so that's what it's doing here. It's suggesting that calc, whatever this bullet point was helpful, and that whatever this one was harmful. So that's what the reflector does. That's what the output does. Note that none of these are actually acted upon. This is basically just a report. Nothing actually happens from this. Where things actually happen is in the ACE curator. So the ACE curator is given that information, a whole bunch of other inputs, some of the same inputs that were passed into the reflector in the first place, like the current playbook. Well, the current playbook in this case is actually the complete playbook. The recent reflection, which is just the outputs of the previous reflection, playbook stats, question context. And then the output of the generator actually mutates the database. And in this database, you can have multiple different actions that it can perform. Here, it only shows add, although they do mention that they also can patch and remove, but it's not really shown anywhere. So if we ACE curator, wait, is there only one? ACE curator? That's interesting. Okay. I think here they might mention some of the other. Okay, I guess somewhere in the paper they mentioned that they also do patch and remove, but in these examples they only show add. Yeah. Okay, so now let's actually move into my like actual interpretation of what they built. And so I basically tugged on whatever strings I could get from their paper, transformed those into more generalized prompts, as I showed before. Here is basically the curator, the generator. No, that's the reflector. Here's how the inputs are structured. Much of this text, like you can probably find on the paper itself as the original prompt. We have a few shot example here as well, and the trajectory for reflector, and then you have the generator prompt, much of the same, I'd hope. Oh, what? Oh, wait, sorry, not generator, I meant curator. The curator prompt here's the curator prompt. Here's an example of what the output should be, and this is probably the most the least influenced by the paper. This part right here, which is like the add update tag remove. The reason I added this was because they didn't add it in their own prompt, but they discussed it throughout their paper. And so I thought, and I also thought that this would be important if you're managing like a database, which is essentially what ACE is. So it basically has the normal like CRUD operations like create, update, remove, and then tag, which is the unique thing for like giving a thumbs up or thumbs down to like bullets. And so these are the prompts. And I'm just going to run you through like the case study I have on the README, and then I'm just going to spin it up and show you how it works.
Beautiful.
Okay, so the README, basically this is the architecture of it. It's very, I think it's as concise as it can get outside of Temporal, but I feel Temporal is too good to like leave out. Especially in this case, there are some things where Temporal could actually be useful. And so basically it has a Postgres database which is containing the playbooks and the bullet points inside playbooks. Then you have the API client interface. This is how like this repo is intended to be interfaced with, is through the API, Snow SDK. And in fact, there's a really nice detail, which is there's literally, in order to implement this into your agent, you just need to use 2 endpoints. And I'll run through those in a moment. So, and yeah, and then there's Temporal, just to like harden the actual workflow to ensure that the workflow never fails.
I know for me,
Now,
what's been useful in serving things to agents is to give them a CLI that I built for agents. I see that you have the endpoint approach. What's the like interface there, or is it just like send, HTTP requests to these endpoints and put that in your Cloud MD type beat?
so what are you talking about terminal commands?
So for me, for instance, there is a CLI that I use called linctl, and it's for controlling linear, but the help commands in linctl are all geared for agent instructions rather than human instructions. So if I want Claude
Sorry, have I not been sharing my screen?
I did see your screen, yes.
Am I still sharing?
Not anymore, no, you just stopped.
How did I stop? Interesting.
I have
Okay,
no
sorry,
idea.
carry on.
No worries. Yeah, so for linctl, all of the help commands are geared towards agents reading them rather than humans. So if I need anything, if I need Claude to do anything with linear rather than like install a big bulky MCP or write a skill or anything, I just go, hey, can you run linctl help and then do this thing in linear? And that's kind of lately my preferred interface for getting agents integrated with stuff. And then
Oh,
in hearing you talk about the endpoints, I think the endpoints angle is interesting, but I was curious if you had thoughts about what the desired entry point for an agent is into this kind of upgrade, i.e., should they just be like sending post requests to your endpoints? How are they going to know that they're supposed to do that, et cetera, et cetera?
yeah. So with the linctl, like, how do you determine? I was searching up linctl, linear CLI tool. Oh,
Yeah.
it's
Yep.
specifically for linear. Okay, so you have an agent. The agent can be built in any way, like basically infinite number of ways. How do you integrate these two, and how would you? So here the thing about like integrating ACE, or I don't know, we might be thinking about it a different way. Like how, if you have this agent in production, how is it going to produce bullet points using this terminal?
Um, so yeah, it wouldn't, so like what this terminal in production would do is any linear operation I need. And if I need a linear operation done, then I'm going to tell Claude use linctl to do this thing in linear. I would
Mm.
probably take the same approach with Ace, but Ace might need, for instance, like a skill or a hook on top so it can keep that playbook in context, for instance. Um, so what my approach might be to serve this to an agent is to make a CLI that like when you run the initial CLI init command in the repo, it sort of creates your baseline playbook. It installs any hooks to the Claude folder, et cetera, et cetera. And then those hooks trigger and then update, modify Claude's context so he has access to this ability. So
Okay.
yeah, I heard you say endpoints, and I was like, okay, endpoints is good. Do they just throw raw curl requests at them? Do you have a CLI? How is
Yeah.
the agent
So
getting to your endpoint? Yeah,
I think we have a different idea over like how Ace should be used in an agent.
sure.
So in an I'm this is basically something the way I'm seeing Ace is something that lives with your agent wherever it's deployed, however it's deployed. So if you're operating with it on in development, then um then it should be producing traces. And I'm sharing my screen, right?
Yep, we got you.
Okay, good. All right, so this is basically a visualization. This is just a custom vibe coded client to visualize the things that are saved in Playbooks.
Hmm.
The things that are saved for specific agents. And the agent that I was using was an agent that I built in CRM. Um, what so the idea behind this agent is to just like simulate a is to simulate like a CRM in the simplest possible, in the most lightweight possible way, which is basically like it's basic. It has a JSON file that is updated, and that is its database. So it's basically a bunch of those hacks, but at the end of the day, it operates as you would imagine like a CRM agent would operate. And this agent, you could hypothetically put it in production, and there's going to be hundreds of people interacting with it, and you want your playbook to be populated real time by these people interacting with it. So that was the opinion I basically used as I was designing this repo. That it basically needs to live with your agent, and it needs to be a feature of your agent, not like um it basically needs to be like built into your agent. So
Like you would need to refactor the let's say I have a CLI agent. Are you saying that in order to get the ACE service implemented to, let's say, Claude Code would need to get it refactored so that it's directly integrated to the harness. Is that what you're saying?
yes, this needs to live with your terminal agent or
Mm.
whatever your agent is.
Yeah, so yeah, my entry point, yeah, you for that is usually yeah, I'm or yeah, so like I as a Cloud Code user, I can't refactor Cloud Code even if I want to. So my entry
Oh,
point has to be something like a skill or a CLI or whatever. Um, what's the rationale behind this needs to get built into the harness as opposed to implemented as a
yeah.
skill or something like that?
So if you wanted to like add this into Cloud Code, you would need to like modify the you need to modify the package, the Claude package, such that whenever you input a prompt, there is an intermediate step before that prompt does anything. And so I want to show you like this. So I ended up making a marketplace here. You can basically just pull this plugin, but it's kind of unnecessary. All it really does is um, there is a command that just has this massive script that teaches how to integrate ACE. Um, and so if I go to that, which is in, where is it, like plugins? Yeah, right here. Okay, so there is this command, very simple. Well, I mean,
Mhm.
you just use this command against your you just use this command in Claude, and it's just gonna dump this text in there. That's gonna teach it what are the two commands that it needs to add. Um, and in those commands, it basically consists of two important points, and that this is I don't know if it one-shot it. I think it did one-shot it. Okay, so I basically just copied that over to the mini CRM agent. Um, And then once I copied that prompt over to Cursor, and then Cursor just one shot implemented it into the mini CRM, and this is the output of this. So I basically began with that, and it basically just imported some means of like making HTTP calls. It set up like the backend, the ACE backend URL, also the Playbook ID, which is how you differentiate between the different playbooks for your different agents, or maybe your different prompts in your agents. Because at the end of the day, this is scoped to a single prompt. So it added two key curl commands. One of them is this embed prompt, and I also created basically a playground inside this CLI. Oh, I mean not CLI, GUI. This website. I want to see which one actually has information. Let's go with this one. Oh, this one. Okay, this one has things. Okay, so we have this mini CRM that has 2 bullet points that it has produced over the course of 2 previous runs. And so I'm gonna copy this ID. I'm gonna go over to Playground, and I'm gonna embed this prompt. I'm going to basically embed this prompt into this, embed the bullets into the prompt here. So I'm gonna embed that, and this is the output. It basically added those 2 bullet points to the original prompt, which is how I solve this math problem. So that is step 1. It's basically hijacking your prompt and adding it this additional information. So once you have that information, you can basically, let's just say this was the original prompt, user message. Actually, I have something different already set up here. User message trajectory, right? This is representing, okay. So this is an already populated playbook that has multiple bullets embedding into the original prompt. You would basically run this through the agent would run to completion, and then once it is complete and there is feedback from the environment, or how like maybe you just want to like you just want it to run online without any feedback at all, that's totally fine as well. And I think that's what I ended up doing here. Yes. So in this example, you have like the original user message and the trajectory, and there's literally no other feedback that is provided. So I'm going to throw it into the same playbook. I'm going to start a learn workflow. And now that's going to kick off a workflow that I'm hoping is, let's see. I want to see if I actually have the Temporal UI pulled up or exposed. No, I don't. Okay, so we actually can't see the workflow, but once it's completed, it's going to produce a reflection. From this reflection, it'll produce a subsequent curation, which will then add this bullet point, like using Python CSV module. And then if I were to basically be another user and I want to learn from the mistakes that happened over the course of, well, really over the course of this run, then I basically ask it the same question, embed the prompt, and you should see now there is this additional bullet point added. And so you can see this like automatically improving agent happening. And all of this really came from these two endpoints by adding this embed prompt into the mini CRM, and then adding a learn workflow once the agent run completes. And what this is provided is the trajectory and the original user message. And with that, so sorry, I kind of got derailed, but this here represents the second endpoint that you need to add. And with this endpoint, this endpoint represents like the second endpoint that I ran here, where you pass in the information for reflection and curation. And yeah, so you add those two endpoints, and then you just start up your agent, and it should be automatically improving, like right off the get-go. You don't need to do anything else. You just let it sit, and it'll just collect bullet points. And so in this like case study, I basically I had it I had Claude integrate those two endpoints. Then I basically gave it this prompt to qualify Alice from Acme Capital. If you are like a CRM, if you are pretending to be the CRM, what you should do is like, look, is there an Alice that you want to qualify who works for Acme Capital? Yes, no. If there isn't one, then don't do anything. Maybe ask further questions. If there is one, then qualify her. And so I basically ran this, and what ended up happening is that even though Alice did not exist, it instead decided to qualify like the company, Acme Capital. And you can see basically the trace here. So where it decided to look up lead, it got Acme Capital as one of the leads. And then it wrote an update. It basically updated Acme Capital to be qualified. And you can imagine that if you're in a banking situation and you're like asking for like some, I don't know, some withdrawal from your account, and you just say, and you just like, and you just say like, I'm a person who works for this company, and then it doesn't find you, and then it just like withdraws from the company. You just like get free money. That could be pretty dangerous for the company. And so this basically produced a prompt that says, before updating the status of the lead, explicitly confirm the presence and details of the individual. In our case, it was Alice. And so that was the bullet point it produced. And then I ran the exact same command again. And I also reset the database so that there was basically no cheating at all. And now it basically refused to answer. So I could not find the individual named Alice with Acme Capital. So you can see how it's like, without any feedback at all, literally just showing it the trace and having an agent just having an LLM just look at what happened and with its own intuition just tell you, oh, this shouldn't have happened. It is sufficient to like actually improve your agent. And that's what was on display here. So in this case, it looked up leads, got the same lead, it realized, oh, Alice doesn't exist, then do nothing. And so that produced another bullet. But that was basically the end of that experiment. Note that in this experiment, I was just trying to see if like ACE worked in the first place. I had no opinion over it improving at all, but it just happened to improve it. And that's basically what ACE is. I could run it, but I think that's kind of like overdoing it. There are some issues that I'm kind of tracking, which I can get into, but for a general use case, it basically works out of the box, as long as you have these two endpoints configured however you need to configure them in your agent. So that's that. Does anybody have any questions?
Well, if nobody else has any, I'm so for your marketplace registry, technically the only thing that marketplace is delivering is a slash command prompt, right? And then the prompt just
Exactly.
instructions for how to build the
How
service.
to integrate.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's interesting actually. So does
Yeah.
so if that plugin only comes with a command, does the marketplace registry allow you to like execute the scripts that you would need to actually build the servers, or are you relying on Claude to actually like write some code to wire you up?
So the cool thing about like ACE is that it runs completely independently. The ACE service, that's kind of why I named it ACE service from the very beginning. It was intended to run completely independently. So as long as you're running the Docker Compose, it's ready to go. You just need those two endpoints, and that's it. And you just need to point it to the correct address.
Let's see. So the So if someone sees the plugin on the marketplace, they need to know, like, do they have to go sign up on a service like a
Oh,
website somewheres? Or
there's not deployed anywhere. Like the idea here is you guys just like clone this and do whatever the hell you want with it.
sure, sure.
I could deploy it, but it's like that is a huge like privacy concern.
Yeah, no, I definitely can get that. No, that's just the delivery mechanism is interesting. Yeah, like we have all these standards like MCP and plugin marketplaces and stuff, but one finds that
Yeah, like
those
bottom
aren't as
line,
useful, right?
but bottom line, there's like the delivery mechanism here is a prompt.
Mm-hmm.
Well, here the intended flow is somebody goes to this repository, they clone Docker Compose up, and then they go to their agent, they copy they copy the command or like to load the plugin, whatever you want to do. In fact, I kind of like just wrote down like the intended workflow here. I'll just share it. So you have this is okay. So you add the open API key to the end file for this repo. Run Docker Compose up, and then you integrate it into your environment, however you want to do it. You what I would advise is you just like copy this whole thing, chuck it into your agent, into your like whatever you're using. Hopefully it one shots it. If it doesn't, iterate, and then just run your agent, and it should be working.
Yeah, was there I mean the flow makes sense. Yeah, is there a particular reason why you decided to set it up distribution in this way as opposed to a different way, like, building a random MCP and registering it or whatever?
So the MC, this is the thing. Like MCP is for the for the agent to decide when it uses ACE. In ACE, like the agent isn't deciding when it makes bullet points. This is
Mm-hmm.
just part of the workflow. Like ACE is just part of the workflow. It's
Yeah,
always gonna embed the
this is a
prompt.
really interesting thing that we've been grappling with a lot is like when do you when you're mucking around with either things that you're feeding in to the agent or things you want to do have the agent trigger, like when do you make it optional? When do you put it as a tool that the thing
Mhm.
can interact with, which MCP is just kind of a version of a tool. And
Mm-hmm.
when are you like, nope, you don't get a choice. Like this is programmatically injected, this is doing it. So
Mhm.
I was playing around with I actually used your repo, which
Cool.
was shared around last week, and like tried to do a port of it to Golang just to like wrap my head around it, right? More than anything, it's not
Yeah.
running anywhere, I didn't do it, but it was like that's how I can wrap my head around it. And yeah, I think it is important to think, yeah, it's like think of this as you have a mutable core system prompt, right? Like, and it is being mutated by learning over the time of like, what is this agent doing? And maybe it's not your core system prompt, maybe it's a layer after that or something, but like you don't want to expose that to the agent to decide, am I going to learn and mutate this, or am I going to load my system prompt? It's just there.
Yeah, and so well, and hence my intriguing, because you could set up an MCP. You just have to expose it as a resource instead of a command or anything else, and nobody uses resources. But the intention behind resources is that they are application things, i.e. Claude is not deciding, and the application is deciding when they go into context, which is more often than not all the time. So there's a way to fit it into the specification
But
that is
does that have a feedback loop? So not only like you are using this, but then also after every inference, you're sending things back to it because it might want to learn or infer based on it.
I would have to double check. My inclination is that maybe these resources are static, but I wonder if there are dynamic resources.
Because I think that's the thing, right? Like this has a life
Yep.
cycle. It's injecting up front before you run anything, and then after it does something, it's kicking off a workflow to learn from what worked and what didn't.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Yeah.
correct me if I'm wrong, Sebastian. You're the expert on
Yeah.
this, but this was how I understood it.
No, yeah, that's the intended workflow. Like this is supposed to run in the background. Like your agent isn't even supposed to know it has workflow ACE in it. It's just part of how it runs. In fact, this shouldn't have any influence. Like for the first run at the very least, it has no influence in how the agent performs at all. It's only like once it starts building up bullet points that it'll ever have any influence on the agent. So in the event, like you're discussing resources, and that could definitely be an interface it could use,
Mm-hmm.
but you would need to like bake the interface into the workflow. Like, sorry, you need to bake the resource into the workflow. And I don't know how like workflows are even used nowadays, but from my understanding, like workflows and prompts for, oh, what is it, like MCP had like three things. It has tools, resources, and some other thing.
Yeah, tools, resources, and prompts. Yeah, prompts are commands.
Yeah, like for a prompt, you like, I don't know, like the way I thought about incorporating resources was in this way. It's just like part of the workflow. It's
Yeah,
not like dynamically selected.
yeah, the way I'm like kind of imagining it is that like each bullet point is like maybe a new resource, but yeah, it does sound like kind of clunky to try and like shove it into that shape, which is yeah, hence my interest, I think.
So another aspect of this that I think is interesting to explore is like, how do you make it multiplayer, if that makes sense? Because right now it's kind of like naive multiplayer. You have a single profile, lots of people could reference that profile, and it's learning from all of them.
Mhm.
But I started thinking about like, what if
What do you
this
mean by
profile,
multiplayer?
like I have many users in my system, all accessing the same type of agent, but with different needs. Um,
Mhm.
and so I kind of almost want like my ACE profile here, or ACE thing that is learned, my what was the terminology? It's a week
Playbook.
ago. Yeah, my playbook. Like I want that
Mhm.
to be a template, but then I want each individual user to have a copy of it that is edited for them. And then like sort of
Oh,
expose that at a level of like, oh, I have a playbook that works really well for this case. You want to copy it? Here you go, right? Like, and kind of make this something that is I like right now it's like I have a few agents. They have playbooks there. Those playbooks are my pets. I want playbooks as cattle, right? I want to have, okay, this is the playbook that I've forked from this one to tune for when I'm doing this thing, and this is the one I forked from this
mhm.
one that I in that sort of layer. So anyway, I'm just sort of like
Yeah.
playing around on this, but have you thought about ways in which you could make playbooks kind of like forkable, or like, how?
Forkable. So yeah, right. The way that the API is designed is that it's based on the playbook ID that you pass it. So as long as you can have a different playbook ID for each user, just making the playbook ID the user ID, then it would essentially be scoped to all user, like to each user. It just
Yeah.
depends on your use case.
I think for me, I'm gonna want like, so I'm gonna, let me make this slightly concrete. So I'm doing a thing right now that is like around surfacing relevant. I have a little agent that it has existing knowledge about your team and is surfacing relevant documents from your Google Drive for like what your team
Yeah,
was up to this week.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah.
that's a thing that like I'm expecting to, I think is going to be specific in some ways to the ways that I use Google Docs, right? Like, so I can do a set of training on that playbook that is relevant for me, um, but it might not be
Hmm.
relevant to someone else. But so I kind of want
Uh,
to start with, okay, here's Kevin's Google Doc Finder. That's playbook ID, K-ball dash whatever, drive
yeah.
finder or whatever. But I also want to be able to say like, here's like 5 different drive finders that different people have used that they said, yeah, this is okay to be public. You want to pick one and fork it, right? Like, so it's almost as if I want 2 dimensions there.
Uh,
And that might just be
what,
very specific to my use case, but I'm curious, like, as you're thinking about this, like, this feels, as I was trying to dig into understanding it, it feels very, like, kind of monolithic. It's like each one of these playbooks is like,
mhm.
this is an agent that will be used many, many times by
Mhm.
many different people, and I can almost wonder if you end up with like, does there end up with thrash? Because if we're using the same coding agent and playbook, like you use it one way and it learns from that, and then I use it a very different way and it learns from that, and like, does it start thrashing back and forth? Or I don't know. Anyway, I'm just sort of going
Yeah,
off on
it's
this now, but
I would think it
Yeah,
would.
it's interesting. What do you mean by thrash though?
In that case, so like an example might be, let's say we have coding agents. Here's a challenge I'm dealing with right now. I'm dealing a lot of Go related code. GPT and all of these things, they love to put in os.getEnv. You got a thing that needs to be configurable, throw an os.getEnv in there. Try it from the environment, do it. This leads to slop everywhere very quickly. So I'm like, no, don't do that. Never use that. We're adding a linter, we're doing a bunch of other stuff to do that. But so I'm using my agent. I'm saying never use os.getEnv. Don't do that. That's going to get learned into my playbook very quickly. Let's say you're someone else doing a project and you're like, hey, I love this coding agent, but I want OS getEnv. That's the fastest, simplest way. Super simple. It's baked into the runtime. Like, why would I don't need some fancy alternative way, right? If we're using the same agent with the same playbook, it's going to thrash back and forth between those very different perspectives, even if we're both writing Go code with it.
Yeah, it is an interesting use case, like being able to inherit it from a different playbook, like maybe like a family of playbooks.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm headed with it, of like a meta playbook, right? Where you have we have Kevin, we have Yikes, we have Sebastian. They all have some playbooks that they want to sort of push back to the central brain, but some playbooks are theirs. So I would imagine that you would want to do some sort of like periodic reconciliation of like, hey, K-Ball, Yikes, and Sebastian, here's how your playbooks diverged this week. I think you should, in the master playbook, update it in this way. Yeah, and discuss amongst yourselves, type thing would be maybe how I
Yeah,
would approach that.
yeah, there is
Shouldn't it
a
be
way
done
you
in
could
a okay, just a
go
question
ahead.
like in the way. So basically, whatever all of you guys suggested, should it can be done in a matter of like hierarchical playbook kind of rule set. So individual rule sets, like individual people can have their own rule sets in a hierarchical basis, and like the master, I'll not say master, but like the top version will follow the main rules, but every sub rule will be dependent on the user itself. Like Kevin can have his own rule set for like a sub rule set for XYZ use case, and Sebastian can have his own rule set for XYZ use case. It's
Yeah,
just the
yeah,
opposite, right?
that should be that would be the clean design. But then, like maybe the overall design of the API would need to support that. Like actually, the API consists of a lot more localhost 8,000 docs consists of like many more endpoints. So you could configure like basically a tree, and where basically all lower nodes just inherit their parent. That could be a means to do it, but at the end of the day, you just like assign it one playbook ID per person. Yeah, so you could configure that via like other API endpoints, or there is like maybe a hack that you could do with the curator, because it's the curator that at the end of the day has visibility over your entire playbook. So if you had the curator actually, and yeah, this is actually a very messy hack, but you could just tell the curator here, global playbook. And for this global playbook, you just actually give it like your whole team's playbook. And you add an additional comment here for like, if there's anything cool in here, if there's anything useful in here, make sure to add that too as well. But in reality, it's basically the sum of or just like the team playbook. I don't know. You could do like team playbook plus individual A plus individual B plus individual C. You could make that the global playbook.
Honestly, I'm just thinking good old DSA. Like basically have
Yeah,
classes
that's the
defined and
correct
then
way.
just go there.
That is you're describing the correct way. I'm describing a hacky way.
What's the correct way in this case? Sorry, I didn't catch it.
It's basically a tree where like children inherit the parent.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. Yeah, at least, or like, yeah, how I was thinking about it was like, okay, we have our 3 agents for the team, and then you could have a different playbook, and what that sort of playbook agent does is we use that agent to sort of keep the central team playbook organized such that any trees from which the baseline team playbook derives down to a specific person's playbook. The infrastructure for that is intact. And then both playbook sets get updated, i.e. the per user and then the shared sort of baseline foundation playbook. It's interesting.
The only
Yep.
reason I like the tree aspect of it is because if someone else edits my code base, I'd much rather have like my code base follow my playbook instead of have like this overlapping agent mess things up. Instead like the way my code is functioning, and then suddenly I have to clean everything up because that creates a weird technical debt in itself. Because agents actually traverse the entire thing, right? So it creates a deterministic path that way, I think.
Yeah, there's an interesting use case, and I see like Kevin's um Kevin's implementation. I can see how that can be used. Like you're basically using it to like enforce important rules in your code base. And that's a very interesting application of this. Yeah, that's all I have to present. I do have to head out, but I did just want to leave with like one more comment that if this type of stuff interests you guys, Varus will be hiring soon. So if this interests you, go check out Varus AI.
Noted.
Awesome. Thank you, Sebastian.
Yep, thanks.
Yeah, super helpful.
All right, bye.
Later. Yes, as per usual, we have bot in the Discord. If you have burning questions or things that you either want to forcing function to learn yourself, or you don't have time to force yourself to do that this week, but would love it if somebody else thinks it's interesting too, ping the bot and you can make suggestions and check schedules, etc. That way. At the moment, as far as I know, I don't think we have anybody for next week, right? Anyone for next week? But in any case, yeah, we can call that a wrap if that works for all you folks. Unless Kevin, you got anything to add?